am I going to live my whole life pleasing other people? Basically, I made a really huge decision to quit law when I had nothing else to go to. It was the first year that I actually opened myself up to doing, what does Georgie want to do? What is Georgie interested in?
Hey friends, before we get into this episode, I am going to ask for your help. We are on a mission to hit 4,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. I've got a stat here. 97% of you aren't actually subscribed. That's crazy. So for every follow, like, share, subscribe, that all really helps us to continue to get the guests that you want. So can you please join me in becoming one of the 4K crew? That would help me and I would love it so much. Georgie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you. I say that with everyone. I said that at the start of the last. I'm like, I need another line. I don't know what else to use. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here in Melbourne.
Yes, welcome. Welcome to Melbourne. You wear a lot of hats and I was trying to put together some questions and I'm like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
But I guess for listeners that haven't come across you, who is Georgie Stevenson? How did she get to be this version of who she is today?
Great question. So long story short, straight out of high school, I did law. I studied for 6 years. I worked in a law firm. I worked in family law and, was doing the corporate life, starting work at 7:30, working till 7 p.m. And there was just this moment where I looked at, the people who this is the goal. These were the people that it's like, this is what I'm working towards for the next 30 years. And I just had a moment where I was like, do I want to do this? And then a lot of self-inquiring and realizing that, I maybe picked law to please my parents.
I was listening to the podcast episode, you were talking about this of yours actually, and you're like, yeah, I was pleasing my dad and it felt really great. And
it felt amazing.
I was like, how many people need to hear that?
It felt amazing. But then I was like, am I going to live my whole life pleasing other people? And basically, I made a really huge decision to quit law when I had nothing else to go to. I was doing social media on the side. I was very into my fitness and health, kind of like vlogging on YouTube, on Instagram about my fitness journey. And I had created a community. So I was getting, sponsorships and partnerships. So I quit law and I call it like a gap year. So I had a gap year and I did a whole bunch of random things. And this is the first time in my life. And I was about 24 or 25. So first time in my life that I actually did some things for myself. Like I went on some brand trips with some incredible brands. I released a healthy recipe ebook because I just was obsessed with creating healthy treats.
And because you had time to, right?
Because I could.
Because when you're, I'm sure, practicing law, you weren't able to,
No.
even if these things were on the side. Come on, you're not taking it.
I'd have an hour to a day to do random things. So it was the first year that I actually opened myself up to doing, what does Georgie want to do? What is Georgie interested in? And then what eventuated from there was starting my 2 companies that I co-run with my brother, Naked Harvest Supplements and Rise and Conquer. So Naked Harvest Supplements is an all-natural supplement brand. We are all about basically helping women feel seen in the fitness industry and not be scared of going to a supplement store and there's blue lightning bolts and there's 400 mg of caffeine.
Muscle.
And building muscle. And
even though we want muscle, we don't want it's very masculine. That energy is very masculine.
And also I find, if you're first starting your fitness journey, it can feel scary. It can feel oh, do I want that? Do I belong here? And we really wanted to make females feel welcome in an industry that so often makes people feel unwelcome. We created Naked Harvest Supplements and that has, grown and scaled into an 8-figure company, which is so much bigger than I ever thought possible. I never saw myself as a businesswoman. And then the other side is Rise and Conquer, where I have my own podcast. I love deep conversations. I love self-inquiry, self-improvement. And I've really found that the more I work on my mindset, my emotional intelligence, my emotional regulation, the better my business does, the better I am in my family. And I'm a wife, a mum. I'm currently 18 weeks pregnant. Oh my Honestly, the second, it's just like so different to the first. And I have a 3-year-old daughter, Ivy girl. That's probably summed it up.
Amazing. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
More than
Couple
most.
things.
Yeah. But I also think that perhaps if you didn't have that self-discovery side and that side where you're really looking at yourself consistently and seeing the parts that I think a lot of us try and ignore, that maybe you wouldn't have had that. That's probably been part of the trajectory. How many years from leaving that to where you are now are we talking? Leaving corporate law?
So I left corporate law in 2018. So 5, 6, 7 years. It feels like a long time, but also that's like a very short time if you think of what I've built. So
I just want to come back to that people-pleasing conversation. I want to know about that side of things. I'm sure your dad's proud of you.
yes, well, it's funny. Me and Mads were literally having a conversation this morning in bed about people pleasing. And it is interesting that I made that decision because I have been, even like I remember as a child, my mum, who is a big people pleaser, my dad's a big people pleaser, like being like, you're so different to us. Like I was very loud. I was very obnoxious, like all those sorts of things. But as a child, I was so freely myself. And then there was this point in high school where I started to get a lot of attention because I told my parents I was going to do law. And so for the first time, if I'm reflecting back, I felt special. And I come from a family with 3 brothers, so big family, lots happening. No, not a lot of one-on-one time with your parents and not a lot of like just you feeling very, very special. And trust me, I had an amazing childhood. There's like no sob story here. But honestly, it took just getting that tiny bit more attention for me to go, I should change myself. I should please other people. will take this trajectory. And also it was kind of modeled to me growing up that the point of life was to go out and make money and provide for your family. My parents really came from nothing and, built us a very comfortable, normal life. What was very pushed to us was like, it is about making money, not having fun. It is about like, for example, I remember when I said, I want to like take a year off before uni and like travel Europe. And my parents were like, that is the worst decision. Get straight into the workforce. Like we work, we provide for our family. And so there was just a lot of conditioning for me. And it wasn't so much about people pleasing because I really wouldn't say I'm a people pleaser, but it was about conforming to society and putting myself in a box of what I should be to be not only accepted in society, but I remember I had the thought of, well, if I'm a lawyer, I'm going to be respected. I'm going to have a bit more freedom. I did see my mum growing up as a stay-at-home mum, and I kind of saw that she maybe didn't have as much freedom that I wanted. And so I was like, well, I see my dad going out and working, but he's got more freedom. I'm going to be my dad.
Right.
And so as a young, child or a teenager, I was making these choices of, well, I want freedom, so I have to go and do this job, or I want this. So it's like I was kind of listening to my intuition, but society has just really wrapped us up in these really interesting ideas of what freedom is, of what you need to do to be respected. And then I think my biggest journey of the last 7 years has been of the unbecoming, of like unwrapping these, like, I call it like my armor. And I really had to take things off piece by piece. Even things like, it was so instilled in me of like, well, you can earn money and you can have an incredible life, but you have to work really, really hard to the point of burnout. Like I've done that. I've seen my parents do it. I had to really unlearn and take off like this piece of armor of like, well, no, my health is really important and how I feel every day is really important. It's not just about the end goal. And for me, I think the best thing I did was unlearn so much of what society puts on us of what we should be. And even sometimes it's not society, it's just our conditioning, how we grew up. And it's really interesting because what I might think is success is to be respected. You might be different, but then you would carry different pieces of armor that you have to take off.
Right. I think this piece that our parents have the best intentions, how we interpret that as children still translates into our teen and adult years.
Yes.
And they would be horrified to think, that any of that it was all out of love. But it's very interesting. Yesterday we had a funeral, and isn't it funny at funerals how all this information you never knew about somebody comes out? I don't know why, but even like when they're talking about their life or anyway, we're in the car and we were driving to the cemetery and my sister-in-law said to me, something about mum would never let my husband pursue whatever the career was. I think it was electronics because she didn't understand it. So she was like, no, you're not doing that. You're going to do this. And I said, I never had any idea about this, but this makes sense to me right now. I can actually see how she also was an immigrant. So she'd come with nothing to this country. It's like you've just got to work hard and you've just got to get it done. And studying and becoming a electronic whatever he was going to study, she's like, no, that's not going to work.
It's not definite.
It's not. That's right.
Yeah.
And so for her, she was like, that's a no. And he pursued a different career. But it's so interesting how the messages that we get really do form how we approach things and shape a lot of what we do. And then we have resentment because we didn't get to do what we innately wanted to do. And I think talking about this is so important because our parents definitely do have the best intentions. It was also very generational, like very generational.
Yeah.
What we were told to do. It was like finish school, go to uni, get the job. Like that was ingrained. And I look back now and my daughter's 17. And we're navigating this right now and she's so confused with what she wants to do. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like we're going to figure this out eventually. Whereas I had the pressure, you are going to uni and I went and studied something that I don't, like there's $40,000 down the drain. I don't even know. And 3 years,
Yeah.
It did still shape who I am today.
Of course.
But would I do it the same now?
Absolutely not.
No, and you wouldn't do the same either. So I feel like this next generation are going to have this opportunity where learning's different, how we find what we want to do it's exciting.
It's so exciting. And I think the parenting thing is very interesting because even I noticed with my daughter who's only 3, again, even things like I very much encourage her to be loud. I very much encourage her to be sassy. And these were all things that were kind of suppressed in me that I truly believe like if you suppress your natural who you are, it can come out in a shadow side. It can come out like in an icky way and in a way that doesn't serve you. And so I very much, everything that feels like very natural to her currently as a 3-year-old, I encourage. And it's really interesting because my parents stayed with us for a week because my partner went away. And I could see my dad, she would have a tantrum and she has a lot of as a 3-year-old does. And he couldn't deal with her emotions. Like he'd be like, what's wrong with her? Like just give her what she needs. And I was like, Dad, she's just expressing herself. Like it's okay. And I could see he would get dysregulated. And I could see my whole childhood of how they very much were like trying to suppress me. But it was more of like, not so much not doing it from an unloved place, but it's like, I don't want you to go out in society and get shunned. I don't, like trying to protect you. And it's so funny because, I will be like, let her have a tantrum. Like, It's okay. It's just emotions. Often she needs to feel it. It moves through her body. And then what do you need, Ivy? And we move through things. And I can see, or discipline, like I don't believe in like hitting, Ivy, whereas I grew up and hitting was a,
Or I think most of us in our generation, that was just normal. I remember at school kids being hit.
Not for me, but my dad said he got the cane and whatnot.
Right.
And so he's like, well, how is she going to learn? I'm like, well, I'm going to talk to her about it and we're going to communicate about it. I'm not going to hit a child and then tell her not to hit anyone. Like, how is that going to make sense to her? Because she copies everything I do. Like, in the morning, I'm getting ready. She wants to put on makeup. She wants to put on a pretty dress. Like everything I do, she wants to copy. So if I'm hitting her, that's really sending the message that she can go hit someone when she's frustrated instead of regulating her emotions, talking to someone, communicating. And so like explaining this to my dad, you can see he's like, but how will she ever know to not do that? I'm like, I'm sure she's going to figure it out. Like, and I have so much space and time for it. And it's just so interesting, the parenting conversation, because it's so true. I cannot wait to see what, this next generation, your daughter, my daughter, like what they do and how they act and how they make decisions. Because I guarantee, as much as we are very progressive and obviously we have a lot more knowledge and it's like you only know what you know. But I'm like, oh, I guarantee there will be things that I'll be like, I think this is best for you. And then in reality, we're kind of doing what's similar to our parents. Probably not.
It will. We'll
There'll
have
be
this
something.
to be like, oh, how do we mess them up? Where did we do it? Like for all these things that we knew that we were doing great,
mess them up.
we're going to mess them up.
We're going to mess them up. Yeah, absolutely.
Just like, but that's part of it. I think that what we need to realize is that we are, and not be in denial about that.
Yeah.
And then wait for that to see what that is. Hopefully not something crazy.
And then when it happens, to be very open to like, oh, I'm so sorry you felt that way growing up. And like be able to take responsibility.
I love this. You're a big advocate for self-development. What sort of things do you practice? You were just talking about how Ivy, yes, mimics what and I just think that we are the best examples for our children, and that helps us check ourselves, I think, more than anything. It helps us to check in, which we should be. But what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself healthy, regulated?
Honestly, I think the nervous system regulation has been the game changer for me. In my teenage years, and early 20s, I was quite anxious all the time, very like unsure, anxious. I would get overwhelmed. I remember doing uni assignments and feeling overwhelmed and crying all the time. And really, because when I grew up, you could get a taste of what my dad was like. Emotions were suppressed. We weren't allowed to express ourselves.
Oh, yeah. I remember, don't cry was often something that was said.
Yeah.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
Don't cry.
Okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
Don't cry.
And so I had all these emotions that I didn't know what to deal with. And especially being a woman, like we feel so much and we have so many hormones happening. And so emotional regulation has been a game changer for me. And I do this through either EFT tapping, meditation. I have an app called the Rise app, and we do also this thing called pep talks, which is basically a pep talk. And I find that that's just like helps me change my frequency if I'm feeling quite like low frequency. So I'll do that. Breathing, box breathing, all those sorts of things. Very simple things that we all know. But I'm honestly doing them. Like, for example, I had a talk yesterday and I was in the Uber, and it's like I love yapping. Like, I love talking. It's my favorite thing to do. So I didn't think I would feel nervous, and I got out of the taxi and I started to feel really anxious. And so when I got to my hotel room, I put on a meditation. I sat down. I actually did it twice because I just felt like I needed it. And then after, the anxiety turned into excitement. I was like, I'm really excited to be here. Like, this is going to be awesome. Was old Georgie didn't have those like simple emotional regulation tools, and she would just spiral. She would cry. She would eat food. She would binge. She would go out and drink. She would use other external things. And I just truly believe like knowing that we are the key and we have everything we need inside us. And it can be so simple as like sitting with the emotion, letting it pass through. Yeah.
I think it's so important. The funny thing is, I know that there'd be listeners going, oh, meditation. Okay, whatever. But they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes I don't want to do it either, but I think it's the same as saying, that you really need to prioritize sleep. Like, that's a really important thing to do. But are you doing it? No, I'm not. I have to sit with patients all the time and say, I know this is not going to be groundbreaking, but you kind of have to do it. Yes. And this is a reminder to do it.
Drink your water.
So it's the same, I think, with meditation or self-regulating. Like, you can't sit here and say, I feel anxious and I just don't know what to do or why if you aren't doing something. To at least try and find what the thing is.
You know what also I realized is to learn how to self-soothe. I had, like I said, I had a stay-at-home mom, and she was very attentive to my needs, and it kind of made me anxiously attached where, I can get quite anxiously attached to my husband, to people around me, where I need validation. I need them to make me feel better. And such a game changer for me was self-soothing. So I can be my own best friend. I can be my own person. And I think that's very underrated because, again, a lot of us, we go to the external. I need to go to social media to get a dopamine hit. I need to get my friend to validate me. I need my partner to tell me it's okay. And I do notice it in myself. That is the first reaction. Like even yesterday, like I was like, I want to call my partner. I want him to tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I did the meditation because if you're not proving to yourself that I've got myself, I've got my own back, I know how to self-soothe, you're always going to go to like that anxious attachment or, maybe it's avoidant, and you're never going to feel capable. You're never going to have that self-trust. And it's such a small thing that can make such a difference in every aspect of your life.
Agreed. So important. I know that fitness is something that's important to you, but I also understand, I want to know, when did that actually become important? When was that something that you're like, I'm integrating this into life?
Yes. I've had a very interesting journey with fitness. So my mum was always very fit. Like she always did like pump classes.
Oh my gosh, how fun were pump classes back in the day?
So fun. I would go with her. And it's funny because I remember my friends when I was maybe 13 in school, like I had abs because I would go to pump classes with mum, and we were a very healthy family. I remember on a Saturday night, you had like 2 blocks of Cadbury chocolate, and that was your like whole treat for the week. My mum never used sugar in anything, everything cooked from scratch. Like now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. But like as a child, I remember being like, oh my God.
Your story sounds similar to mine. I used to be like, can't we just be like everyone else?
Can't we just get some chocolate?
Right.
Yeah. Like can't we just get some processed
and this
food?
is embarrassing.
Like my lunchbox, I was like, no one look at it because I've got like desert cakes.
I used to swap mine
with
people.
Like literally just get me like a cookie or something.
Yes.
So, but now I look back, I'm like, fuck, I'm so grateful for my mom because she taught me so many amazing things, and that really led us to create Naked Harvest. We're like very active family. So started off like very healthy. Then I gained quite a bit of weight when I left school and went to uni and started drinking out every night,
living your best life.
Living my best life.
Burning the candle at both ends, rite of passage.
Absolutely. But I gained about 10 kilos in 1 year. And then I remember like kind of looking in the mirror being like, oh my God, like who is this person? And then I was like, I've got to go to gym. I've got to like eat healthy. And then it kind of went to the other extreme, and I very much, started working out, and then I started seeing results. I was posting on social media. I was getting a lot of external validation. Like, for example, my account kind of grew because I put a before and after photo that like went viral. This is like 10 years ago.
Right.
I started getting so much external validation, and then I really took it to the extreme. I was working out twice a day. I was eating under 1,000 calories. And it got really, really toxic. I also, you'd know all about this, but like completely screwed my hormones. I developed a thyroid disease. I, like my hair was falling out, no period, it was acne, everything was happening. Like my body was screaming at me. But it was a really interesting time because I was growing so much on social media. I was getting all this validation. I also was feeling really good in my body for the first time. Like I was like, I love how small I am. I love this feeling of seeing my six pack. So it was a very confusing time because like I was liking it, but also I was suffering so many health issues. And then that led me on a whole journey to, heal my acne, heal my hormones, put on a good amount of weight. So I was like, got my period back. And it's funny because I literally got to the point where I would go to my naturopath and get like a food intolerance test, and I was intolerant to every single food. And it wasn't because I was intolerant. Right. It's just because
in that moment you couldn't tolerate it, but you actually,
Yeah, like my body was just so screwed. So I went from that extreme, and then again had to get to like that healthy range. And now I feel like I'm in a very healthy relationship where I love working out because it feels really good. I love doing weights because I just feel like my body responds really well to that. I don't really do any high intensity because I do have Hashimoto's and I do have PCOS. And even though they're kind of like in remission and they're fine, I'm not on any medication or anything, I just am very conscious of, I have 2 very stressful companies. I have a toddler.
Right.
Like the last thing I need to do is put myself through a HIIT workout. I feel like I've been on both extremes, and I feel like I've come back in the middle. and really realize what works for my body, what works for me and my lifestyle. And I love doing my weight classes. I love going for walks with girlfriends. I love cooking wholesome meals with my husband and baby, but also I love treats. Like me and Mads, we got pizza last night. Like I'm not scared of food, and it really has come like this whole circle, which I'm so grateful for.
I think it's interesting. Our ideal weight and our healthy weight might not be the same thing.
Yes.
And I think it's a hard thing for us to get our head around for so many reasons. Does being a healthy weight, going through all of that, being a mum, running companies, having Hashimoto's, PCOS, being at a healthy weight, does it feel better than being at the ideal weight?
Absolutely. It will. Being my smallest, it just wasn't sustainable. And also something I've realized is it took up so much brain capacity for me personally. Like I am someone where like my natural set point was just like it was 20% lower. And it took so much effort. It took me thinking about every single meal. It took so much discipline and resistance. And now I look and I'm like, well, what would you prefer? Because in my relationship, my husband's a stay-at-home dad. I work. So it's like I have to work. Like it's not like I can be like, oh, I'm going to like take today off and just like think about the food I'm eating. That's literally what happened to get to that ideal body weight. Like it took up so much capacity. And I just couldn't do it now because it's like the priority of like looking a certain way or running my companies and being a good mom. And I'm like, the trade-off is just like, it.
But your health hasn't been traded in all of that. Your health got the upgrade.
Yeah.
And you've let go of the things that were actually really weighing you down. I would say you couldn't be this person right now.
Absolutely not.
With like that just wouldn't work.
No. And it's an interesting conversation, and I don't know if it's a bit controversial. I'd love to know your opinion. For me, it's just like, for me to be at, let's say that ideal body weight, which I would honestly still
we would all love. Yes.
Yeah, like absolutely. I look back at photos, I'm like,
yes,
shit. But it's like, it just wasn't sustainable for me. And I do feel like people who do pick, a certain body type, often it's their work, or it's like, like you see fitness models and whatnot. And I remember actually.
Yes, that's so true. It's their job.
It's their job. And they're like, well, I have a fitness app. I have to look like this. And so like there's certain things that I'm like, it makes sense that they're that size. It makes sense that they look that way. And so for me, it's like, of course I would love to be that, but for my health, for being the person and the capacity, the brain capacity, like I need my brain capacity for other things.
So then for the woman that's listening, what advice would you give to her, the one that is struggling with body image, the one that is struggling with where do I start with all of this? Do you have anything to say?
Well, what I would say and what really helped me was, and might sound harsh, but you need to switch your focus. Like you need to have other priorities, like get a hobby, get a side hustle. It honestly wasn't until I decided that I was going to create my businesses or go fully in, and that could take my attention away from like looking at the scales, looking at myself in the mirror, and seeing that side hustle thrive when I put attention to it. It's even like, I won't go if that was going to be a tangent. Like, no, that's a completely different conversation. I would say, like, instead of getting obsessed with your body, with how you look, get obsessed with something else and decide what that is. Like, preferably not another person, but like a side hustle, a project, something that you can work on yourself. Maybe it is self-development. Maybe you do want to learn meditation. And because you need to see progress in that thing, and that's how you'll get obsessed with it. And so like I was very, not lucky, but I decided to apply myself in other areas and saw such a return that like my mind just was like, oh, I'm not even going to fuck with that over here.
And it would take away from the goals.
Yes, exactly. So that's probably what I'd say is like, you're currently obsessed with this thing, get another thing to be obsessed with.
I think what you
Very
said also
simple way.
about often the role models or whoever that is that we're looking at, that often is their job. And we're like trying to strive to be like that.
Yes.
And
So
the other
true.
thing though, I have to say, that dare I say, I will, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors, like so much of what you see is not reality, yet we think it is. Even though we know it's not, we still think it is. It's like this thing in our brain that we sort of still can't accept that it's not necessary. It's a highlight reel. But I think that so many women that I see are suffering at what cost. They often do have hormonal imbalances. A lot of women have endometriosis, which I know is triggered by that lifestyle.
Yes.
That's hard to hear.
Well, and that's another thing is like that person, they might not have acne. They might not, there might not be something that you can see, but I guarantee you internally something is happening. And for instance, it did take my body about 5 years of that lifestyle to then start getting the reactions to things and start seeing
recovery.
Well, so to start seeing the symptoms.
Oh, sorry, at the first part of it,
Yes.
5 years into that you started seeing a lot of these symptoms be triggered.
Yeah. Or even, for example, like infertility, like those sorts of things. It's like it may be a delayed thing and you never know that person that you're looking at, what they're going through behind the scenes. It's like what I was going through, but on social media, it would have looked like everything was, fine and dandy. But like underneath, it's like I was like seriously like, what the fuck is happening to me?
If you get up close enough to somebody, you can see. But truly, like their skin's dull. They just don't like. I look at you and I'm close enough and I'm like, you are glowing and you're also pregnant. But you know what I mean? Like I can see health. You can see health. If you get close enough to somebody, some of these fitness models, God bless them, they're lovely people. But if you get close enough, you're like, you're not healthy.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm used to looking for that. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. Like it
comes
doesn't
at a
lie.
cost.
Yeah, it does. And some people are okay with that. And then if you're okay with that,
right?
Sure.
Well, I mean, 100%. But I think, again, it's just being real about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially as outsiders looking in.
Yeah. And I do love what you said of like, be very conscious about who you're looking to as a role model. And if that's all you're looking at and that's all that you're consuming in social media, of course you're going to feel that pressure to conform. It's like me growing up feeling that pressure from my parents because that's all I knew. So it's like just being very conscious of like who you hang around with, what conversations are you having. Something I love to do, and this is anything in your life, is like have an expander. So anytime that you're like have a goal of like, oh, I want to switch my health and, work on my business or whatnot, find someone who has done that and had a great outcome so they can expand you. So you can be like, well, I can do it too, instead of focusing on people who are maybe, exasperating.
Spend time with the people who've done what you want to do, no matter what it is, whether it's health, business, personal growth.
Yeah.
I think it's right. We can put ourselves right in the middle of it. Be like, hi guys, I'm new.
Yes.
But I want to learn from you. You don't even have to say it. You just have to be it.
Yeah. And even if you're not like in a direct proximity, it's like social media, it's podcasts, it's YouTube. Like we are so blessed with how close we can get to people who were not even in the same country. So you kind of have no excuse.
So true. So what's next? What's next on the cards for you? Plans in the next year or two? What's happening?
Well, obviously, I'm due in August, pregnant, having a baby. And it's very interesting because the current identity that I'm leaning into and really the season is when I first had my first baby, Ivy, I went straight back to work.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are guilty of that.
I didn't love the newborn bubble. She had colic and it was just like very confronting. Like first time mom, I was like, what the fuck is this?
There's no manual. You're like, what the hell am I doing? Baby's like, I don't know. What are you doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Like no one knows what they're doing.
No one knows what they're doing. And especially being someone who's quite a high achiever and like doing really well at things, like it was very confronting. And I just like wanted to avoid it. I wanted to go back to work. I didn't want to like even look there. And then obviously like I've progressed from there and I am so proud of the mom I am and have the most beautiful relationship with Ivy. But especially because I think this may be the last baby. I'm honestly pushing my husband for a third, but he's like, no, because he's a stay-at-home dad. I'm like, look, I do feel you there. And so I really want this newborn experience to be different, and I want to be very intentional. So I do want to take 6 months off.
Do it.
Do want
Do it. I can
Yes.
highly recommend that you should do it.
I've established my businesses. They're not startups.
Right.
They have, I have a team of 30 people. Like, I should logically be able to do it. I'm the block.
Right.
I'm the one who can't stop.
It's interesting though. I think we thought it was a flex to go back to work straight after having the first.
Yeah.
And the flex was actually how much time can I actually take away?
Yes.
Like how much time can I take how long can I take my hand off the wheel?
Yes.
And just let myself be guided. You've got a team.
Well, I know, and I really need to step more in my feminine, and I struggle with that because Georgie in 5th gear, so easy for me. I love challenges. I love pushing the limits, and I feel like I'm very good at it where I don't go into burnout now. Like I've really tested those, and so I'm like, my new challenge is actually slowing down. And look, if you have any advice for me, I would absolutely love it. But yeah, I feel like that's the next season because it feels challenging. Like to say I'm going to take 6 months off, everything. I'm like, I'm getting like anxiety.
You just have to trust the process. You've done the work already. Like there's nothing. Well, there's always going to be more. But I feel like at this point you can trust that you've set things up enough to go. You know what? And if you had to go into damage control, you would.
Yeah, I would figure it out.
You'd figure it out.
I've done it before. I could do it.
But I do think it is. Yeah, I definitely would say you've done the hard work, so you can have the time.
And because what's the point of creating these successful businesses? What's the point of working so hard if I cannot take time off for my family, which was the goal in the first place, to provide for your family, which I've done. Yeah. So I'm like, Georgia, do you see the correlation here? So
I feel like we're the same person. It's just I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's so great. Well, I'm excited, and all the best with the pending birth. And
I will update you.
Not doing anything not doing anything as in doing so much, but not necessarily in the capacity that you were currently focused on. But thanks for chatting with me today. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.